Hi everyone. Today I'll be going through a yoga class with a focus on the core. As a reminder, the core is basically our torso, so it includes shoulders and glutes and everything in between. We're going to be doing a mixed bag of things. You might want to have a block with you. It's not necessary to be able to do the class to have the block. There's just a few points in the class where it might change your experience as opposed to making it more difficult or easier per se. As a reminder, always use modifications. I'll be showing different modifications. Take breaks, take rests whenever you need to, and perhaps you start by just doing a little bit of this video and then building on it to add strength and to progress from there. So we are going to start in our mountain pose with our feet about hip distance apart. And we want to make sure that we stack the joints to keep all our joints safe. So our ankles are underneath our knees are underneath our hips are underneath our shoulders. And then just take a moment, maybe we even rock a little bit on the feet. We want to ground ourselves. And maybe lift up the heels, maybe lift up the toes, and then spread the toes nice and wide. So notice your connection to the ground, to the earth beneath it. Start to lift up in the arches of the feet. You'll notice the legs immediately lengthen and strengthen. And then we want to find what's called our Uddiyana Bandha. So that's the sensation of doing up a zipper from our navel to our ribs, like we're wearing a pair of tight pants. And that's going to help support our spine anytime we're doing any of these moves. And I'm going to repeat that a lot during class because it's important to keep our low back safe. And from there, we want to lift up, create space between the ribs, between the vertebrae, almost like there's a string pulling us up, nice and tall, right from the crown of the head. Take a breath, and on the exhale, allow the shoulder blades to just glide down the back. And then the arms are strong, but the joints aren't locked. So I like to think of this as my low jazz hands, but you can just be strong here. Take a few breaths. Just notice your body, tall, strong in this space, starting to breathe in through nose and out through nose if you can. Don't get hung up on it. You're going to hear my breath a lot in this class, so I'm just about 6 weeks post-sinus surgery, so in my head I still sound very nasally and still working on my strength, so you're going to hear my breath a lot. Maybe a few shoulder rolls, just gently allowing shoulders to glide down the back. And then let them just settle. Pause. So we're going to start with a chair flow, and at any point in time, if you don't want to be moving the arms if we're taking care of shoulders, just don't move them. You can bring palms to heart center. I'll show that option, but we're going to start with a circle sweep of the arms back, palms face down. We're going to bend the knees, send the hips back, and find our chair pose here. And just a pause. We're checking in with our brace, that sensation of doing up our zipper. We want to make sure we're not pushing the knees forward. We're sending the hips back and out like we're sitting in a chair. And then we're just going to flow this. So we circle sweep, we draw the arms down, a little pause, and just flowing. So we are warming up the body, as always, when we start a yoga class. And just moving with our breath. Now, as I said, if that's uncomfortable for shoulders, you have the option to bring arms out to the side. If that feels better with that little sweep, you can bring the arms up and bring palms together instead, or you can just keep palms together and flow your chair. So that's up to you. You can mix and match as always. I'm going to be here just for a couple more. Let's finish out one more, and we're going to hold that chair. So again, pause here. Check in with that belly brace. Check in with our joints. Make adjustments. 2 more big breaths here. Inhale through nose, exhale through nose if you can. 1 more breath. My breath, right? So let's bring our palms together and come to a standing position and just check in. So we're going to do a chair flow, but we're going to add on movement this time. So we're going to bend the knees, send the hips back, find our chair, send the leg back 45 degrees, change sides. So as much as we can, coming back in, hip distance as we come through that chair. And then we're flexing the foot, sending it about 45-ish degrees behind us to the back corners of the room. Starting to really engage, warm up the glutes. Checking in with that belly brace. And then just flowing that, breathing, maybe pressing the palms together. Notice the upper body engaged. One more to each side. And then we're just going to change it so the legs go out to the sides, more like a tick-tock kind of motion. Just engaging a different part of our glutes. And then just flowing here. Can you hear me breathing? Because I can hear me breathing very heavily. Let's finish out one more to each side. And then just pause. Take a breath. It's more for me than for you. Breathe here. All right, so I want you to think of your abdominals as kind of like a washing machine. So we're gonna get some movement happening, that chugga, chugga, chugga kind of movement. You can have palms at heart center. I like to bring in that little bit of mixed martial arts because I teach in a facility where it's mixed martial arts, and we just bring our guard up light. So we're just protecting our face. So think of your washing machine, and we're just gonna go side to side. So look at my head. You can see the clock behind me. I'm coming off the center line, right? So I'm not keeping my head in place. I'm moving from the waist. My shoulders are going side to side. So you're starting to engage those obliques. Those muscles that wrap around the side. Knees are soft here. Just get used to that movement. Good, a couple more each side. And then pause back in the center. Hands can stay right where they are. We're gonna go wider. Okay, so maybe a little wider than hips. What we wanna have is our feet this time a little bit looser on the floor and our knees bent so that we can get fluid. So similar move, but it's more of a bob and weave. So where my head is, where the clock is, we're gonna pretend it's a line. That's gonna be the rope in a boxing ring. And what we wanna do is use the legs, use the shoulders, but use the obliques to get under the rope and on the other side. So it's a bob and a weave, or a weave and a bob, whatever you prefer. So we get down. So we're kind of squatting while we do it, right? We're not pressing the feet firmly. We're able to move if we need to. But we're moving the shoulders, and we're really getting movement from the waist. And then just breathe here. And again, palms can be at heart center. Hands can even be on hips. It just doesn't feel as fun to me. Let's finish out one more to each side. And then come back to center. All right, take the feet a little bit wider. Toes pointed out 45 degrees, knees facing the same direction. Hands can be on hips again, palms at heart center. And we're just gonna start to move a little bit. So we're gonna lean over and reach for the opposite ankle. So we're gonna squat, reach for the ankle, come back to the center, change sides. So we're just flowing side to side. So again, using those obliques to twist, returning the shoulders as we come down towards the ankle. And flow here. Now, if your legs are getting tired, you can pop up a little bit in between. So you have that little bit of a break, a rest, we'll call it. Yes, no. So start to really turn. Maybe we reach for the back of the ankle to really use those obliques. Warming up, almost done. One more to each side. And then come to the center, hold, palms at heart, sink. So we wanna make sure the knees aren't falling in. We wanna pull those knees back, and maybe even we move the heels a little bit. So our knees are about over top of our ankles. We are braced. There's a little tip of the tailbone here. Arms can be out, arms can be goalpost. Take a couple breaths. Good, use your next exhale, stand up. And let the arms float down. All right, so moving to the top of our mat. Feet hip distance apart, mountain pose. Check in, take a breath. We're gonna circle sweep, find our chair. Pause here, breathe. Now our arms can stay long like this, or to increase the load on our core, we lengthen the arms here. To decrease the load, palms come into heart. Let's take some breaths here. So hips going down and back, making sure we're not pushing the knees forward. It's like we're sitting in a chair. It's right behind us, okay? Breathe, brace. And then use your next exhale to fold. So knees are bent a little bit at least, maybe a lot. We can release head and neck. Just take a breath or two here. I'm not going to hang out here too long. And then soften the knees. Fingertips come down. Let's walk out to our downward facing dog. So we spread the fingers, press the palms down, push the hips back. Maybe we soften the knees, allow a little more length in the back. Take a couple breaths here. This is a resting pose if you need to come here at any point in time. Heads between the arms. And then the next inhale, we lower to the knees. Exhale to resting pose. So this is our true resting pose. If we need a break, you can take the knees wider. You can rock side to side. You can rest the forehead. For now, we're going to come up to a tabletop position. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Toes can be curled, but for this, if we can flatten the feet, try to do that. So we want to brace, our back is nice and flat. We're going to extend left arm, right leg, spinal balance. So that long leg at the back, we're pressing through the heel, we're stretching through the fingertips like we're shaking somebody's hand, and we want to press down in this opposite shin so that we make sure we don't turn that hip. We want to keep it nice and square so we're engaging more of the core and we're not dumping into the leg like I just showed there. Good, now we're going to add on. So inhale and then exhale. Bring the knee and elbow together. Flow this. Your own pace, your own breath. Pressing into that opposite shin so that we don't transfer the weight and we use the core to hold us in place. Let's do a few more here. Two more. Hold, breathe. Inhale, release. Exhale to change sides. Set it up. So we do that zipper up. We press down on that shin. Leg is long, arm is long. We can flex that back foot. It's no higher than our hip. So I take a look around and look. I shouldn't see my foot way up here. That's turning my hip. It's putting a lot of pressure on the low back. So we want to lower so it's below the hip or in line with the hip. When you're ready, add that flow. Brace. Press down into that shin, and the supporting hand, fingers are spread. We're pressing into the whole palm. Keep breathing through it. However that breath wants to flow. Let's do two more. And then make your way back to resting pose. So we release, sink back, maybe we shift a little bit in the hips. And then we send the arms out long, we pick up the head, find our first kneeling plank. So we lower the hips just to that place where it feels like we might arch. So that would be arching. We pull back. So you notice you can actually see the arch in my back. I pull back and the back flattens. Draw shoulders down, elbows are soft. Breathe here. So if you're feeling warm enough, you can curl the toes. Pick up the knees. Neck is nice and long. We're gazing forward. So you'll notice when I did that, coming from knees to toes really didn't shift my hips that much. And I didn't lower in between, right? So I don't want to be here. I want to be here. Take one more breath. Good. From knees or toes, tuck the elbows, lower all the way down. Find either Sphinx on the forearms or Cobra. Small, medium, or large. So we draw shoulders down, elbows are soft, we lengthen the throat. Take a breath or two here, we're just warming up the back. And then inhale, release, slide hands under shoulders, push to down dog with that exhale. So in our down dog, flatten out those palms, make sure you're not on the wrists. We're gonna do our tiger curl. So we keep the hips lifted, we stay upside down, that letter V. We draw in one knee, bring the knee up towards the nose, step back, switch. So at your own pace. I like to point my toes here. It gives me a little more room to draw that knee up. So it should feel like you're doing a crunch upside down. You're bringing ribs and hips towards each other. And I'm assuming, I don't know, I can't really see myself that well. I'm assuming I look like a tiger crawling through the jungle. You can let me know if I do or don't. Drive that knee up. Try not to smash your face. Just think about the ribs and the hips coming towards each other. Two more to each side. And then pause in your down dog if you can. Take a few breaths. Good job. Spread fingers, come forward to plank. Good, so we can be on the toes here, or we can drop to those knees. Push against the floor, soften elbows. Neck is long. Good, tuck elbows in, lower all the way down. Find some length in the back. Take the fingertips out like little suction cups on the floor, and then pick up your upper body. So you can stay here. We're engaging the back side of the abdominals, the erected spinae. Legs can lift. Arms can also lift. 3 breaths here. Think about using the muscles in the back. So if fingertips are still on the floor, try not to push. Try to lift with the muscles in your back. Last breath. And then we lower down, slide hands under shoulders, push back to a quick rest. Take a breath or 2. Spread fingers, extend arms, shift forward to kneeling plank. So we're gonna start this in kneeling. It's a little bit of a flow. So we're gonna set up our side plank. So we're gonna kick one leg out. It doesn't matter which. Off the mat, it's like a kickstand. We lift up the other side of the body. And then for this, if you can, we're gonna pick up that leg, flex the foot, push through the heel. And again, it should be nice and long, right from the hip, knee to ankle. We're stacking the joints. So if that leg is lifted up here, my joints aren't stacked in line with my hips, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on my glute, maybe even my low back. Okay, if we lifted the leg, lower it down, change sides. So we just turn the shoulders, kick the other leg out, set it up, lift the leg if and when you're ready. Take a couple breaths. And then now that you've got this, we're gonna flow this. So we're gonna turn the shoulders, kick the other leg out, lift. Turn the shoulders, kick the other leg out, lift. So of course you can do this without lifting the leg. Lifting the leg is gonna engage more glute. So up to you, depends on where you are right now. And just breathe here, moving side to side. And it's not about how fast you're doing this. Think about quality movement, where you really feel it, where you're supposed to feel it, as opposed to just going through the motions and trying to get this done. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. You should be starting to feel your glutes, at least figured out where they are. Let's do one more to each side. Come back to the center. Quick rest. Just reset the body, extend through the arms, shift forward, kneeling plank or full plank for a few breaths. Neck is nice and long. Push against the floor, soften elbows, squeeze your thighs, breathe. Zipper's done up. Good, one more big breath. Ooh, that was a big one. Tuck the elbows in, lower all the way down. Find that length in the back, send your fingertips out again. So we're gonna lift the upper body, option to lift lower body, option to lift arms. Next option is to pull. So your choice. So maybe you start to pull, you do a few and you're like, yeah, that's enough. I'm just gonna hold and breathe. And maybe we even take the legs down. Maybe we even come down for a breath or 2 to give the back a break and then come back to it. So up to you. Whatever we're doing, let's try to do 4 more breaths. One more. And then push back, resting pose. Last one. Take the knees wider. Here you can stack the hands or fists to rest the forehead on. Maybe you bring elbows to the floor and hands in prayer behind your head. Maybe you wrap the hands around you to the low back, whatever feels good to you in this moment. One more big breath. Feel the ribs expand and then release. Good. Pick yourself up. Flip yourself over. So this is where you might want to have a block close by. Again, not necessary, but it might just help a little bit. So we're gonna come down onto our back with our knees bent. And this is constructive rest. So anytime we are lying on our back and we need to come to a resting pose, this is it. We can windshield at the legs if we're here, helps to release the back, kind of reset the hips a little bit. So take this anytime you need to. But for now, we're just gonna come to center, knees bent, and I'm gonna have you take them out a little bit further. And you'll see why in a moment. Maybe you're even gonna pick up the toes, but we'll get there. So fingertips light on the back of the head. And we're just gonna start with a basic crunch. So inhale, exhale, we curl. Inhale, we release. Exhale, we curl. So as we curl, we wanna make sure we're not pulling on the head or neck. It's just kind of a resting place for our hands. We're taking a peek through the knees as we come up. And we're bringing our ribs and our hips towards each other in the front. Now I'm going to give you a couple different options here. So we can lengthen the lever by taking the arms out, and that just makes it harder to lift because there's more to lift off the ground that's further from our center of gravity. If we don't like it, we can come back to fingertips behind the head. If you want a little bit more, we're going to reach and come up a little bit higher. So it's not a full lift, but it's a little bit higher just to lift the arms. Bring them through the knees. And this is where I kind of like to lift the toes. I don't think it helps. I think it just feels better to me. Use that breath. So typically exhaling as we come up makes the movement more efficient. So whatever you're doing, remember you can always mix and match, but let's do 4 more. One more. And then we're going to walk those feet in. Bring our palms down by our side. So we want to be, so we can reach the ankles. That kind of tells us that our ankles are underneath our knees. And then feet about hip distance apart. I like mine a little bit wider than hip distance. It gives me more stability. Palms down, inhale, exhale, push against the floor. Find our bridge. So we're going to rest here. So both feet flat against the floor. Use an exhale to push. Lift the hips, create space in the front body. Palms can be down, palms can be up, or we can interlace the hands behind us and kind of shimmy onto the back edges of the corners, or back edges of the shoulders. I was going to say edges of shoulders, or corner of shoulders, and then it all just came out together. Good, one more breath. And then gently release down. Pause. So we're going to bring knees over top of our hips, bent at 90 degrees. Hands can be at our side, and we're just going to drop one set of toes down, lift the knees back up, switch. So just moving side to side. So here I'm going to give you lots of options again. So you can stick with this. If you want to make it a little more challenging, both legs go at the same time. So you have to brace a little harder. So remember, we always want to maintain that natural curve in the back, so we brace. We've got that zipper done up. There's a few times where we don't have that natural curve when we're doing types of crunches. In this particular case, we want to keep that natural curve. For a little bit more, we start to lift the tailbone a bit. So that's where we start to lose that curve a little bit as we lift. So then if we're doing that little bit of a lift, and that's only if we're doing both legs, we can start to make it a little bit bigger. And again, you can mix and match. So maybe you do a few like that, and then maybe you go back to the knees. Maybe you go back to single legs. And then maybe you come back to that lift. Good, whatever you're doing, 4 more. So if we're doing single legs, we're doing the same number on each side. And then place the feet down, constructive rest. Feel free to windshield wipe here, just for a breath or 2. And then we're gonna come back to our bridge. So we walk those feet in, you should be able to touch your ankles or very close to it. Hip distance, palms down by our side. Exhale, lift. Breathe. So I'm gonna give you the option here to hang out in your bridge right here, or with the hands behind us, or we're gonna add a little bit of a flow to engage the glutes and a little bit of the hamstrings. So inhale, we're going to lower down. Exhale, we push. So flowing with our breath, lifting those hips up, and using both feet to press evenly. From big toe to little toe, from outside edge to inside edge, from the heels to the toes. Think about grounding, points of connection. Try to lift a tiny bit higher every time. A millimeter is still progress, right? And maybe we explore squeezing the glutes. See how that feels. Feels glorious for our glutes, right? 2 more. If we're flowing, 2 more breaths if we're holding. And then just gently lower yourself down. Pause. Fingertips come back to the back of the head. We're going to pick up one leg, doesn't matter which, cross the ankle on the opposite knee, and just kind of let that knee drift open a little bit. So we're coming to our side crunch. Inhale, exhale, we're going to lift the opposite shoulder across the midline. Inhale back down, exhale back up. So starting to engage those glutes that we warmed up with our little bit of boxing at the beginning, and in our side planks. We can add a little bit of a reach past the knee here if we like as an option. Might help us get up just a tiny bit higher, engaging more of the obliques. And again, using our breath, typically exhaling to come up. So, because I'm totally not counting, as usual, right? Let's do 2 more on this side. You're going to change sides. And if you're doing this on your own and you like to count, then you can count and just make sure you've done the same number on each side. Okay, so again, the hand doesn't have to reach. You can keep the fingertips light on the back. It's about getting that shoulder across the midline. Use the breath. Adding the reach if we like. Keep lifting. Keep breathing. Two more. And then we lower the leg, come back to our bridge setup. Hip distance, ankles underneath our knees, palms down. Exhale to lift. And again, we can stay here. This is a bit of an inversion. We can just let the blood flow to the head. Or we can add that little bit of flow. So I'm going to give you the option to lower all the way down, just touch the floor, come back up. Or lower partway down and come back up. So it's a smaller range of motion, a little more muscle engagement. Three more. And then lower down. So we're going to do one more flow with our bridge. And this is where if you have a block or a core ball or even a rolled up towel or blanket or something, just something you can put between your thighs that allows you to have a little bit of a squeeze so we engage a little bit more of the pelvic floor. So we're going to do a little bit of a flow. So we use that exhale, find our bridge, establish that squeeze. Okay, squeeze can be from 0% to 100%. So you want somewhere probably 30 to 50%. All right. So we're going to take the first one, lower all the way down, come back up, and then it's 3, 2, 1. Lower all the way down, come back up, and then it's a short range of motion for 3. So just following that flow, letting the breath flow with it. Both feet pressing down. Maybe notice how much the glutes you're squeezing. Maybe notice how the front opens up. So we're engaging posterior chain, which means the front is a little more relaxed and can create space for that breath. Let's do 2 more. And then lower down. Take the block out for now. And I'm actually going to turn myself so that you guys can see the angle of my knees here. So we're going to come onto our back or stay on our back, open the arms up completely, and we're going to bring our knees up to our chest, just like we'd be hugging our knees in. Okay? So when we come to a twist, what we usually do is let the knees drift down, and then we get to a point where gravity kind of takes over and pulls them the rest of the way. So I want you to find that sweet spot before gravity takes over. So we're going to lower the knees and then come to that spot just to the point where that's where gravity is going to pull them the rest of the way down. And then we hold. Breathe. This shoulder, the opposite shoulder can lift up a little bit here. So notice here my knees. As I tip them over, they're not perfectly in line with each other anymore. Just something to be aware of, okay? And then come back to center and just change sides. So just to that point where it feels like gravity's going to take over, and we pause there. Breathe there. And again, notice my knees. So you'll find this bottom knee sticks out further than the top knee does. I'm going to show you why that's important, or just interesting in a moment. One more breath. And then let's come back to center. So place the feet down, and this is if you have a block and you want to grab it, or if you just want to see how it looks with the block. Again, we're going to put the block between our legs. Doesn't matter really which way it goes, except you don't want the big wide end, you just want a skinnier end. All right, so same thing. We're going to hug those knees in. We're going to drop them to the side, just to that point where it feels like it might take over, but then we're going to squeeze that brick, and then you'll notice that my knees stay a little more in line with each other. So this top leg doesn't pull back, which actually engages the obliques just a little bit more. So it makes this a little more challenging. So up to you if you want to include that. Some of you might just go, huh, that's interesting. Take one more breath here. Exhale back through the center. Change sides. So again, just to that point where it feels like you're going to let gravity take over. And then squeeze, if you're using that block, squeeze so the knees stay a little more in line with each other. And you'll engage a little bit more of the obliques. Breathe. That back shoulder can lift just a little bit. That's okay. Keep breathing here. And then all we're going to do is start to flow that. So we're going to come through the center. We're going to come to that place just where it feels like we're going to tip, come back through the center, and switch. So controlled, taking our time, letting the muscles do the work here, letting the breath flow. Trying not to push with the hands, but let the waist do the work. So that's where you listen to that gravity point, right? Once gravity starts to take over, we have that tendency to either hold ourselves or to push ourselves. Let's do 2 more to each side. Controlled, slow. Last time. Good, come back to center. Place the feet back down, take that block out, put it off to the side. I'm just gonna turn back this way again. Constructive rest. Take a few breaths. Maybe we windshield wipe. You can even take the feet really wide if you want a bigger windshield wipe. Feels delightful. And then just make your way back to center. If we took the feet wider, let's bring them in a little bit. Pick up one leg, doesn't matter which. Hug the knee in, send the other leg out long, flex the foot, and then exhale, draw that knee in a little bit more. So we're just giving the hip flexor a little bit of a break there. Nice deep breathing here. Maybe slowing down the exhale. We're going to bend the straight leg back in, cross the ankle of the knee that we're hugging on that opposite knee, push that leg out. So we're starting to stretch hip a little bit, glute. If we want more, hands can tuck behind the leg. If we want even more than that, we can extend that lifted leg. Breathe. Some people find it enjoyable to rock here, so feel free to explore that too. And that can be in any of these positions if you want to explore rocking. For now, one more breath wherever you are. If we lifted the leg, let's lower it and replace other side. So again, we can just stay. And one side might be different than the other. Just listen to your hips. They'll tell you. Use your options and breathe. Let the jaw be soft. Let the forehead be soft. One more breath here. If we lifted that leg, place it on the floor, hug the opposite knee in, and then send the opposite leg out. Flex the foot. Exhale, draw that knee in a little bit closer. Breathe. And then hug both knees in. Maybe we rock side to side a little bit, or we make some circles, just a couple in each direction. And then hugging the knees in. Now, because this is a core class, we want to make sure that our back is very safe as we come up to a seated position. So we're going to take our knees to one side. Whatever side you're going to, that arm is going to extend. You're going to rest your head on that arm, and then you're going to use the other hand to push and roll yourself up. That, my folks, is the proper way to get up off the floor to keep your back safe. All right, settle yourself into a seated position, whatever that is in this moment. Crisscross applesauce, whatever you want to be in. Inhale, let's sweep the arms up. Interlace fingers, press palms up to the sky. Take a look up if you can. And then turn palms down. Start to come forward as we bring the hands in front, and then we're going to push back like we would in a downward facing dog. And just take a couple breaths here. And then walk the hands up. We're going to switch the foot that's on top and do the same thing. Inhale, sweep up. Interlace fingers, press up. Look up if you can, stretching the throat. And then turn palms down. Again, come forward. Press your palms down. Spread your fingers just like you would in down dog. Push. Breathe. Let's walk the hands in. Inhale, create space. Exhale, we're going to turn to one side. Doesn't matter which side. Hand just to the outside of the knee. Other hand on the floor. And we can just gently gaze behind us. Take a couple breaths here. Enjoying our twist. The next inhale, we come back to the center. Exhale, we change sides. Again, take a few breaths here. Not forcing the head to turn, just gently looking back. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, sweep the arms behind you so palms can just face each other like you're holding a big ball. Or we can drop fingertips or palms even on the floor. Lift up through the rib cage. Drop shoulders down, create space in the front body. And then breathe here. So stay here. If we've been spending a lot of time inside recently, sitting kind of like this with the remote control in our hand or a smartphone or a computer, we are going to need to spend some time stretching these muscles out so we don't come out of this all looking like a bunch of hunchbacks. Lifting up through the chin, again stretching the throat. One more big breath here. And then coming back to center. Inhale, sweep the arms up, bring palms together above you. Bring them to heart center. I hope you enjoyed that practice. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Stay safe. Namaste.